Welcome back to another Explainer. So glad you're here, because today we're diving into a psychological mystery that pretty much all of us feel, but well, almost nobody actually understands. Okay, picture this. We've got our little Doodle guy here opening the door to a sleek, modern apartment. He steps inside, slams the door behind him, boom, and just looks around at the completely silent walls. He takes this big, deep breath, totally ready to soak in all that absolute freedom and independence he's worked so ridiculously hard for in his career. But then, bam! This weird, heavy, tangled physical weight just drops right in the middle of his chest. Now, you'd probably tell yourself, oh, it's just casual work fatigue, right? Or maybe just a quick mood dip that'll magically vanish the second you start scrolling through your phone on the couch. But actually, the real answer is way stranger, and it's literally wired into the deepest parts of your DNA.
So, did you really think your rugged individualism was the ultimate pinnacle of human success? Yeah, you might want to think again. Because the exact second you feel that heavy tightness in your chest standing alone in your empty living room, your primitive brain basically slams a giant gavel and registers your genes as a dead organism. No joke. Look, our modern culture, especially in Western societies, absolutely idolizes individualism. We're fed this story from a very young age that the peak of the mountain, the ultimate boss level, is living totally alone, relying entirely on yourself, and needing absolutely no one. We're literally told that needing other people is a liability. We celebrate the lone wolf vibe. But what if this exact thing we are all striving for is fundamentally, completely at odds with how human beings are actually built to function?
Well, it turns out we're dealing with a massive evolutionary mismatch. Just look at this contrast here. Today, a towering modern skyscraper is our absolute ultimate symbol of freedom. But for millions of years of our biological history, back on the dusty, flat Stone Age savanna, that proud, isolated independence we obsess over today wasn't some fancy luxury. It was a literal synonym for lethal exile and banishment. Think about that for a second. The condition we now see as total safety and success, having your own isolated little box in the sky, far away from everyone, was historically the absolute greatest threat to your survival. So how on earth did safety turn into a threat? Simple. Our modern environment hit the fast-forward button and evolved at lightning speed. But our brains, they're still completely wired for the ancient savanna.
Back in the Stone Age, exile equaled death. Full stop. I mean, your ancient ancestors didn't even have the word independent in their vocabulary. It just didn't exist, because living alone outside the tribe was guaranteed physical suicide. Survival back then demanded constant, uninterrupted human clustering. We're talking sitting shoulder to shoulder around a warm campfire. Everything, hunting, guarding the camp, raising kids, facing off against lethal predators, was this sacred, irreplaceable collective team effort. If an individual got exiled from the tribe, or just wandered off and got lost in the wilderness, their brain instantly triggered a terrifying chemical alarm. This wasn't just sadness, it was a blaring red alert siren screaming that they were in mortal danger.
And scientists have studied this deeply ingrained genetic dread, and honestly, the scale of the damage is terrifying. Medical authorities have officially declared a loneliness epidemic for a very, very specific reason. Dr. Julianne Holt-Lunstad led this massive meta-analysis that completely shocked the medical and scientific communities. She discovered that chronic social isolation damages your health in a brutally measurable way. Get this, the danger of chronic loneliness to your lifespan is exactly equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes every single day. Let that sink in for a second. 15. Your quiet isolation in that super secure luxury apartment, it is literally damaging your cellular structure, your heart, and your overall lifespan just as effectively as a daily tobacco habit. Crazy, right? So how exactly does social nothingness do all this physical damage to a human body? Well, the pioneer of social neuroscience, Dr. John Cacioppo, explains it perfectly with his evolutionary theory of loneliness. We really have to stop thinking of loneliness as just a sad feeling, or some personal weakness, or even a temporary emotional dip. It is a strict biological mechanism perfectly identical in function to hunger or thirst. Think of it like this. Just as your stomach physically aches and begs for calories to keep you from starving, your brain aches and begs for the tribe to keep you from dying. It's not a flaw. It's a brilliantly designed urgent alarm system meant to keep the organism alive at all costs.
But here is the biological horror story of what happens when that ancient alarm goes off in our modern world. When you lack real human connection for too long, your body's biological panic alarm system flips on. See that bright red background we've got here? That's your nervous system freaking out, interpreting this absence of people as an imminent, unprotected, existential threat.
The amygdala, that fear center in your oversized doodle brain, starts aggressively pumping stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline straight into your bloodstream. Your blood pressure skyrockets, your cells suffer from chronic inflammation. You could literally be sitting in a tailored business suit at a quiet desk, but inside, your nervous system is a terrified caveman sprinting for its life from a tiger. Your body is biologically stuck in a constant fight-or-flight loop, screaming that you are totally unprotected in the jungle and a predator is about to strike.
And that brings us to the glaring, almost funny modern irony of it all. We live in these packed skyscrapers surrounded by literally millions of people. We've got thousands of virtual friends and followers, yet our ancient evolutionary brain, it absolutely does not recognize a like, a retweet, or a tiny digital avatar as a real social bond. To your biology, that's just empty calories on a cold digital grid. In order to actually feel safe, the human brain requires direct eye contact, it needs physical proximity, body language, warm human touch. Without those incredibly tangible physical cues, you remain physiologically starving, even if your phone is buzzing with a new notification every 10 seconds.
When your mind lacks these physical cues for a long time, it falls into a state that the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, defines as acute social hunger. And this hunger, it completely warps your thinking. The scariest part is, it happens totally under the radar without your awareness. You become hypervigilant. Because your primitive brain is convinced you're under attack, it alters your perception. Suddenly you start viewing the glances of others or even friendly gestures as potential threats instead of invitations to connect. You start to see a friendly neighbor holding a package, not as a potential buddy, but as a highly suspicious intruder you need to avoid.
And this warped perception leads you straight into a massive psychological trap. You start thinking yourself, man, people are just exhausting. Independence is so much safer. I'll just stay right here, alone in my room. Have you ever caught yourself thinking that exact phrase? This is the trap of defensive self-isolation. You pull back because your stressed-out, hypervigilant brain is telling you that dealing with people is just way too risky and draining. But what you don't realize is that by buying into that thought, you are basically drawing a brick wall around yourself that hardens into an iron cage. You are actively locking the door to your very own mental prison cell and directly feeding that chemical monster of cortisol and inflammation that is slowly devouring your physical and mental health day by day.
Now, we really have to zoom out and talk about the system we live in, because modern capitalism has very cleverly exploited this evolutionary contradiction, creating what we can call the profitable void. Think about it. Every modern service is engineered to be frictionless, which is basically a corporate word for human-free. You order your food with an app, you buy groceries with one click, you work behind a screen without ever speaking a single word out loud to a real human being. And the system profits immensely from your isolation, because an isolated, lonely person is literally the ideal consumer. They buy way more stuff to try and fill that emotional void, spending endless hours on streaming platforms and social media, basically just trying to distract themselves from their own inner biological pain.
So how on earth do we break out of this vicious cycle? How do we save our bodies from this silent epidemic? We've got 3 actionable steps for you. Step 1, redefine independence. True independence isn't about total isolation. It's about having the strength to build your own small, intentional tribe in the middle of this fast, cold world. Step 2, make the 10-minute call. Seriously, you need to activate deep relationships, not superficial digital ones. A simple 10-minute voice call with an old friend dissolves that anxiety in your chest almost instantly. And step 3, enter the physical world. Go outside, join a gym, volunteer, or just share a real, genuine, warm smile with your local barista. Your evolutionary brain absolutely needs to register those simple physical cues to hit the safe button, recalibrate your security system, and turn off those toxic stress hormones.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to remember this. That tightness you feel when you've been alone for way too long, it is not a failure on your part to be a strong, modern, independent person. It is just the brilliant scream of your own genes trying to save your life, pushing you back toward the warmth and evolutionary protection of the group. So, the next time you open the door to your modern apartment, step inside and slam it shut behind you. Don't look at that empty space like it's some solitary confinement cell. View it as a secure base camp. A base camp for someone who knows their independence is beautiful, but who also understands that picking up the phone and engaging with their human tribe is the exact thing that truly keeps them alive. I'll leave you with this. What is one simple physical connection you can make today to tell your ancient brain that you are finally safe? Really think about it. Thanks for learning with me today, and I'll see you next time.